am undoubtedly disappointed in this one, but I wouldn't say that it's a bad movie. I'd still say it's very good, but compared to Phantasm, it is absolutely inferior. But it still has its own great moments, and it still has a lot of really good stuff to talk about, so let's discuss. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to Animation Stitching, your number one stop to stitch your branding and everything animation. Welcome back to DC Live, and welcome to our next Batman TAS movie review with Batman and Mr. Freeze, SubZero. This is a movie that I've heard literally almost nothing about. I've seen ads for it all the time when I watch some of my old WB DVDs and VHS tapes, but I've never actually seen it until now, when I finally sat down and watched it today, thanks to that double pack I showed you from the Phantasm review, which has both SubZero and Phantasm. So this one was a first-time watch, and it is very fascinating on your first watch. It's a very fascinating movie to see how it all plays out and how it all comes together. But unfortunately, throughout the movie, I was just really disappointed. Even as a Batman fanatic, I can't call this movie great. I can't. As much as I love Mr. Freeze as a character, as much as I love how much they tried to take his character a few steps forward while also a few steps backwards, it just doesn't work. But I still think this is a very good movie, but it's definitely one more for the fans rather than the actual general audience. So let's go ahead and get the negatives out of the way first. The biggest one, the freaking CGI. Yes, there was CGI in Mask of the Phantasm, yes. But it was used sparingly. Most of that movie, especially the final act, was all done in 2D animation. This movie, however, has an extreme over-reliance on CGI. It has a CGI opening, it has a CGI motorcycle chase, it has a CGI bat plane that flies around, and a couple scenes where everything looks like a video game. It doesn't look like 2D animation, it doesn't look convincing, and it's incredibly freaking jarring. All throughout the movie, it distracted and bugged the absolute heck out of me. I understand they had a lower budget, but if they were able to make an entire series with nothing but 2D animation, they should have been able to make a movie too, so at the same time, there's no excuse. Now look, if it was just used for the opening, I'd give it a pass, but no, it was used throughout this entire movie. Entire movie. And it was so jarring. So yeah, CGI's a big problem. Another big problem with this movie is Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon's relationship is underdeveloped, pretty much comes out of nowhere, and doesn't even continue into the continuity of the new Batman adventures. Not at all. This is pretty much a throwaway side plot, which sucks because the scenes of them together are very cute. But the problem is, after she gets kidnapped by Freeze, which he actually does it for a pretty good reason I'll get to later, Robin gets sidelined. Horrendously awfully sidelined. And it pretty much makes the entire love story he was building with Barbara completely pointless. Almost entirely, completely, freaking, utterly pointless. And that angered me because, again, I like their scenes together. They're cute, but I hate when movies use that kind of stuff just for filler, and it doesn't actually tie into the story at all. I hate that. And then the other thing about this movie is its writing. It is hit and miss, and unfortunately, unlike Phantasm, which had some pretty decently funny moments when it needed to, this has no funny moments. I didn't laugh a single time. I wasn't completely disinterested, but I was expecting at least a few laughs here and there, but I got nothing. It felt like a bland Batman, New Adventures of Batman. The new Batman Adventures episode. I've seen one or two of those, and they were pretty bland. Now, I know every episode's not like that, but I'm just saying the ones that I've seen were bland. So, unfortunately, yeah, the writing doesn't work, and Barbara and Dick's relationship could have been cut out of the movie, and you'd still have the same plot. Like, I hate it when movies do that, using that kind of thing for filler or fan service. Like, seriously, if you're gonna have a love story, actually have it tie into the freaking plot, please. Thank you. And then this movie's biggest problem is the entire second act is so rushed. Like, this movie is about 10 minutes shorter than Phantasm, but yet it still feels a lot slower because it has very bad pacing. Like, the pacing in this movie is bad. That is absolutely no way to get around it. It is bad. Like, it is bad. Like, it starts out okay in the first act, setting up the villain motivations, seeing Bruce, Dick, and Barbara all out of costume, and all that's fine. But after Barbara's kidnapped, it screeches to a freaking hole. Like, that, like, it drags too fast. Like, we see Barbara in the room where she is being held captive. She tries to escape. She gets captured, chained to the bed. Then the second time, she gets captured, tries to escape again, meets a little boy, and like, you could have easily either A, cut that down, or B, just leave it out entirely. Yes, I like that Barbara's not a damsel in distress and actually tries to fight back. Credit to the team for actually getting that right, but I mean, outside of that, like, what was the point of those scenes? Nothing. There was no point to those scenes whatsoever, and they could have been cut out of the movie. And even then, when they were cut out, if they were cut out of the movie, it'd still feel rushed. Like, this definitely felt like the writers treated it like a throwaway, and that's a huge shame because this was made, I believe, by pretty much the exact same team that made Phantasm. But here, there's none of that effort. There's none of that passion. There's none of that sharp adult writing. Like, it just feels like the writers didn't care. Because it was a direct-to-video movie, they thought no one was going to watch it anyway, so throw away. And that bums me out. It seriously bums me out. Okay, I think that's all the negatives, right? Let me double check my written review just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And apologies, you hear a fan and an AC, because I have to keep my door open, the fan has to be there to blow the air into the hallway, and the AC's over there, so sorry for all the noise, please just bear with me. Let me see. What did I say about this movie? Egregious over-reliance with CGI, poor pacing, lack of satisfying conclusion, making me feel pointless, rushed second act, and feeling long. Okay, yeah, that's pretty. Okay, I got all the negatives. We're done with the negatives, now let's talk about the positives, because there's a fair bit of them in this movie. I still enjoy and like this movie. I just wish that it was better. So let's go over our voice cast, shall we? First of all, of course, Kevin Conroy's Batman. I mean, he's Kevin Conroy. I already praised his performance of this character in the Phantasm review. He's pretty much the exact same here, even though not as good. And it's because of the writing, not because of him. Lauren Lester is a great Robin. He will always be a great Robin, and he's pretty much the definitive Robin of the small screen. Outside of Burt Ward. Then there's George Sundra Dunza, I don't know how to pronounce that, who plays Gregory Belson, the secondary antagonist of the movie. He does a good job with the role that he's given, but the character very much is a side plot, is a side thing. He could have cut him out and didn't miss anything. And then some returning from the show, Bob Hastings as Commissioner Gordon is great, as always, but he's barely in the movie once again. Mary Lou Henner as Veronica Vreeland is okay. Mari Devon as Summer Gleason is okay. And then Rahi Azizi, Brian George, Carl Lumbly, Townsend Coleman, Ed Gilbert, and Trez McNeil all do great jobs with the additional little voices. Then there's Dean Jones as Dean Arbogast. He's okay. Mary Kay Bergman as Barbara Gordon, legendary voice actress, pretty much transitioning from the show to the movie, does an amazing job in the movie, even though, again, she's given little to work with. Then there's Robert Costanzo as Detective Bullock. He's fine, but he's only in one scene, so it doesn't matter. Efren Zimbalist Jr. as Alfred is great, of course. And then we have the true star of this movie, in terms of the voice acting and actual character, is Michael Ansara as Mr. Freeze. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Ansara is the same one that voices him in the animated series. So, again, a series regular transitioning to a movie. And here he gets a lot of focus, and throughout, while he's doing a lot of evil, villainous things, you still feel bad for him, because you can kind of understand where he's coming from. He has this one last chance to save his wife, and he's going to do it by any means necessary. And then he's stuck with these two polar bears for most of the movie. They're fine. They're not really characters. They're just there to be there, because they're polar bears. But Michael Ansara is great as Mr. Freeze. Legit great. I loved him all throughout the movie, and he was the one part of this movie I could truly say, outside of the normal series cast, I was very invested in. I really enjoyed Michael Ansara as Mr. Freeze, especially the ending. I'm going to get to it right now. The ending and the third act is the best part of this movie, where Batman and Robin track down Mr. Freeze and Barbara and Belson all to this abandoned oil dredge where Freeze was having his hideout. And they break in, and Belson, while he's trying to chase Barbara with a gun, because I guess he's just a desperate moron, shoots some oil tanks, and it causes a fire, things start exploding, and ultimately Freeze has to be saved by Batman and the group. And then Freeze begs Batman to go save his wife, and Barbara also wants to save the little kid, because this little kid, as we see in the beginning of the movie, is pretty much Mr. Freeze's only friend. So they go on to do that, and they're able to get the little kid out and get Nora Freeze Fries, whatever, in the Batplane with Robin. But Batman decides to go back for Mr. Freeze. And Mr. Freeze has a broken leg, so he can't just walk out of there, which I did like they explained that. And Batman tries to save him, but because of some debris falling on his hand, it knocks the grapple hook out of his hand and plunges Mr. Freeze to his supposed death. And then it just has an amazing, incredible visuals with Batman trying to run off this oil dredge as it's literally exploding to pieces behind him. The whole final act on the oil dredge is fantastic. That is by far the best part of the movie. And then we get to the wrap-up segment, which, again, we don't get a wrap-up to Batman's story or to the love story of the movie, which, again, makes it feel pointless. But it ends on a really beautiful note, that the doctors were able to revive Nora using some of the freeze tech that Victor himself invented, and Freeze himself isn't dead. But he has iced his legs so he can still walk around and stuff. But he decides to send himself into self-exile to let his wife have a happy life. It's an emotionally beautiful ending, and it does end on a fantastic note. This movie has a ton of problems, but that ending, I will not doubt it for a single second. That ending is beautiful. That whole ending and that whole third act alone makes this movie worth at least one watch. It is beautiful, it is heart-touching, and it feels like a nice send-off to the character. If it was a send-off and they didn't decide to bring him back in the new Batman adventures for almost no reason. But whatever, this movie isn't in continuity with the series, so who cares? It's another one of those one-off adventures. And then, of course, the 2D animation itself is still fantastic when it's actually used and not egregious CGI. it's still really good here, and I especially love the scenes with Batman in this fiery oil dredge, and you see like all these reflections of fire off of his costume and stuff. That is some gorgeous animation. And then Barbara's pretty good, but she's very much sidelined because she is the hostage here. But she doesn't just lay down and let them do this operation to save Nora's life. Instead, she constantly fights against them, which is cool for the character and shows that she's not just a damsel in distress like Robin is most of the time, but also it hurts the movie because then it also just repeats the same thing over and over again. I don't know, it's give and take. So I've discussed the positives, I've discussed the negatives. Now time for my overall thoughts. Yes, this review is a lot shorter than Phantasm or pretty much any of the other reviews I've done. And it's because this one's pretty self-explanatory by the numbers and doesn't really have much to really analyze and break down. Like, it's a very by-the-numbers movie, and sadly that means that it's far inferior in quality to Phantasm. Yes, Phantasm was a theatrical release, and that's why it had a big budget and so much effort put into it, but even for a direct-to-DVD movie, it should have still... Excuse me. They could have put in so much work, time, and effort into this movie still, but... Nope, because WB loves to treat these direct-to-DVD movies mostly like throwaways for most franchises. Scooby-Doo. Unfortunately, this one just didn't really get the same care and time and effort as Mask of the Phantasm. But, even with all the problems I pointed out, I would still say it's a very good movie. I do think it's enjoyable. If you're a Batman TAS fan, you're going to really like it. But don't expect it to be better than Mask of the Phantasm, because it is inferior to that movie in every single way, shape, and form. But it's still it's still a very good movie, just can't quite call it great, and because of that, I am disappointed. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. They could have really took their time with this one, but instead this is one of those times where it was just rushed out the door, despite the fact that it was a direct-to-video movie, so arguably, they could have just released this movie whenever they wanted. But, you know what, I don't know how the whole animation industry stuff works. Maybe it was a mandate from WB, I don't know. What I do know is that this movie is, at best, a 7 out of 10. It is a very good movie. It's worth a watch for Batman fans. And I'd still say it's worth a watch for general audiences and animation lovers. But if you're not a fan of Batman, it is very much a one-and-done movie. I'm not sure if I'll watch it again. Maybe I'll watch it again around December, see if it maybe clicks a little better with me. But as is, it's a very good movie. I just expected so much more. Maybe that was my own stupid fault, but you know what? It is what it is. I still enjoyed the movie. I still recommend you give it a watch. It should be pretty cheap and easy to find on physical media and on HBO Max. So, give it one watch, make your own conclusions, and if you end up loving this movie, then that's fine. We don't have to share opinions. I'm just here to share my opinion. In my opinion, this is a very good movie, but a huge step backwards from Phantasm. Now, how will it compare to the third and final movie of these TAS movies with Mystery of the Batwoman? Well, we'll find out later this month. I'm not going to say when, you'll just know. So, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already to Animation Station. And we still have a good bit of DC movies to go, but I should also let you guys know that starting tomorrow, tomorrow and the day after that, I'm going to be doing 3 reviews at once. And it's because I have a big camping trip coming up, so I'm not going to be able to have reliant Wi-Fi or anything like that to, get these reviews out or watch these movies for you guys. So, unfortunately, I'm really going to have to brake pedal a bit, but I think you guys will still understand. I think you guys will still enjoy the content, so... Yep, thank you guys for watching. I'm Jazz Small Animation Station. I'll see you guys next time for our next venture with the Cape Crusader when we begin Batman Gotham Knights.